Okay guys, it is once again time to talk about some Easter eggs, and today of course we have Spider-Man Homecoming from Marvel Studios. So first up, let's talk about the Avengers themselves, as of course the movie opens up with the events that happen right after the invasion of New York. We of course see the Leviathan, which is crashed inside of the station, and various other pieces of the battle all littered around the city. Now, of course, right after that, we see that operation, which is run by Adrian Toomes, is taken over by Damage Control. These guys are, of course, a reference to the exact same team in the comic books. And we even see the same exact members that are seen on the covers all there. During Peter Parker's time in high school, we're going to get various little hints towards other things going on. One such mention is of course that a teacher is giving a lecture on the Sokovia Accords, which of course were made part and mandated after the events of Captain America's Civil War, which is exactly why Captain America is a fugitive. And while we're talking about Captain America being a fugitive, let's talk about those Captain America PSAs that were clearly made right after the Avengers incident, because he's wearing the same suit, which is of course being shown off in Peter Parker's school. And one of them, right after he's talking about how the human body can change us, and he says, "I know how that feels," the teacher says, "I'm pretty sure that guy is a war criminal now," obviously referencing to him being on the run. Now, while not confirmed, but many people are saying it might be an Easter egg, when we first go to Peter Parker in high school, as he's walking through the hallway, we see a girl whose hair is all pale white. This might be a reference to Black Cat Felicia Hardy. And also in that same scene, we see that on the back mural of famous scientists, there is a drawing and painting of Howard Stark, the father of Tony Stark. And another quick one that is also in the school is of course the inclusion of Bruce Banner in some of the best and smartest minds that can be seen on just like the back wall during a scene where Peter Parker is more or less just kind of not paying attention to anything. Stan Lee also has his expected cameo as a person who comes out shouting out of a window when Spider-Man accidentally forces someone to trigger an alarm. There is also the moment where Tony Stark is giving Peter Parker advice, and he says, "I just want you to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man." This is of course a direct callback to the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man thing that Spider-Man is famous for saying. There is also a moment that almost goes to mimic the famous kiss from Spider-Man in 2002, the upside down one with Mary Jane. Unfortunately, that doesn't go in Peter's favor here, as Liz is more or less in dire situation where she's about to die. Another callback all the way to the early 2000s is the fact that when we see Spider-Man jumping around rooftops, eventually he takes a break right in front of one that has a ton of graffiti. One of the specific things that it says is Bagley. This of course referencing Mark Bagley, who is famous for bringing Spider-Man, and more specifically the Ultimate Spider-Man comics together along with Brian Michael Bendis. There is also the inclusion of Spider-Man having an AI in his suit, and if you pay attention and already know, she is actually voiced by Jennifer Connelly. Jennifer Connelly was previously Betty in the Hulk movie in the early 2000s. And another huge one for Spider-Man fans is going to be the fact that Aaron Davis actually appears in this movie, played by Donald Glover. Now, Donald Glover previously tried to become Spider-Man for the Amazing Spider-Man series, and that didn't pan out. Him though playing Aaron Davis, and he even mentions he has a nephew. This nephew would be the one and only Miles Morales, the Ultimate Spider-Man. And while we're on comic book nerd trivia that might make you go, "Oh, that's so damn sweet and shocking," see what I did there? There is actually two shockers in this movie. One, Bryce Montana, and the second one, Herman Schultz. And while we're talking about villains, let's talk about the fact that during this movie, we actually get the introduction of a very familiar character to Spider-Man fans. This being Mac Gargan, aka the Scorpion. But not only that, Mac Gargan would eventually go on to become Venom. And speaking of Venom, when Ned finds out that his best friend is Spider-Man, he's asking about various powers he has, and he says, "Can you spit venom?" This obviously being a reference to what a spider can do, but it might also be a little nod to Venom himself. And while we're talking about the villains, let's talk about one specific line that references to the Man-Spider. When he's climbing the Washington Monument, we hear the people saying Man-Spider climbs monument. Now, of course, the Man-Spider is an advanced mutation of Spider-Man. In another interesting twist that Marvel threw at us, of course, towards the end of the movie, we see that Michelle, played by Zendaya, actually says that her friends call her MJ. This quite clearly being a nod and a little wink wink nudge nudge you were wrong to a famous scooper out there who said that she would in fact be Mary Jane Watson. And speaking of wink wink nudge nudge, let's talk about the Iron Spider armor which Tony Stark is about to give Peter Parker. Unfortunately, Peter does end up turning him down from joining the Avengers right then and there, so he doesn't get the armor, but we'll probably be seeing this in Avengers Infinity War. The exact last scene of the movie, we see that Peter Parker has his suit back which Tony gave him. He puts it on and he doesn't think Aunt May is there up until she witnesses that he's in the suit and that he is Spider-Man. The last line of the movie is "What the F" as the credits hit. So now Aunt May knows about Peter as Spider-Man, and this is probably going to be a huge part of the sequel. Now during the first post-credit scene, or should I say the mid-credit scene, we see that Gargan is of course talking to Adrian Toomes the Vulture, and he says he has friends on the outside. This could be the first hint towards the inevitable buildup of the team known as the Sinister Six. Now another thing people have obviously pointed out, and it bears mentioning, the fact that the character of Ned is very strikingly similar to Miles Morales' best friend Gank from the Ultimate Spider-Man comics. So much so that they even used literal moments from the comics, such as Gank playing with the Lego Death Star. And while we're talking about Ned, his last name just so happens to be Leeds. Yes, Ned Leeds, aka the Hobgoblin. So is it possible that eventually he might become the Hobgoblin, or the fact that maybe his father will take on the mantle? Towards the end of the movie, there is also a mention of Thor's magical belt. This belt can actually double the user's normal strength, and if combined with the actual hammer, can amplify all of those powers. This was mostly seen in the Ultimates comics. And although they never call him out by name, the character played by Michael Kronos is actually the Tinkerer himself. Yes, a very obscure villain. And while we're talking about familiar characters, let's talk about Martin Starr, who actually is making his second appearance in the MCU. This time, he just so happens to be the teacher in one of Peter Parker's classes, but he has also had a previous appearance in the MCU in The Incredible Hulk as Amadeus Cho. In the third act of the movie, when Spider-Man is absolutely being crushed under all the weight that is kind of thrown upon him by the Vulture, this is very reminiscent and a callback to the Amazing Spider-Man number 33. And I just want to say that this scene right there was absolutely one of the best in the movie, in any Spider-Man movie so far. Also, Peter Parker's principal might look familiar to many of you guys. That's because he actually appeared in Captain America the First Avenger as one of the Howling Commandos that teams up with Captain America. They don't mention if there's any relation or anything between these characters, so I think it might just be a case of recasting. And since this movie is obviously taking a lot of inspiration from younger teen movies, there are quite clear nods and almost one-to-one takes of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and honestly, it's pretty damn awesome. Now, of course, another thing that shows up everywhere throughout the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it's very prominent here, is the Chitauri alien tech, which of course more or less anybody's trying to use to their advantage, and we see that Toomes is running his whole operation on small-time theft of Chitauri technology, which is of course being modified by the Tinkerer. Also, the post-credit scene is one that involves Captain America and those PSAs. This time, he's more specifically talking about how sometimes you can sit through a whole lot and pretty much get nothing out of it, and sometimes it feels like a waste of time. Obviously, poking fun at all the people that stay for the after credits, hoping to get a hint at the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In the film, we also see that Betty Brant is there. Unfortunately, she's not working at the Daily Bugle like you might expect. She's actually just a basic reporter on the actual, whole TV station that is broadcast throughout the school. In the movie, there is also a teacher whose last name is Warren. If she is married, then I would assume that character's name is probably Miles Warren, aka the Jackal. And lately, Tom Holland has really talked about how much he would love to see the character in a movie, so maybe this is a hint towards the future. There is, though, one slight problem with the continuity in the movie, and that's the fact that it says 8 years later after the Avengers incident, which would place this film in 2019. But I'm guessing that right here they're actually adjusting for when the Avengers takes place. And quite possibly my favorite Easter egg of all is right in the opening of the movie. After the opening prologue, we actually get a brand new version done by an orchestra of the classic Spider-Man 60 theme, which honestly just sent shocks and chills through my body. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if there's any Easter eggs I am missing, please let me know down in the comments below.